Hello and welcome to France 24's weekly music show. I'm Villeminot.
And I'm Marjorie Hache, and this week we're doing a little roundup of the year 2020, a year where the world was brought to a standstill by the Covid-19 pandemic, which inevitably impacted the music industry as a whole. It also means that, musicians who nowadays make most of their money through touring and also concert venues and festivals who normally generate jobs and revenue were greatly affected.
That's right. Here in France alone, music should have generated 10.4 billion euros in profit in 2020, but in effect, the industry has lost 4.5 billion euros. And as a result, a number of venues look set to close their doors forever. Now, many people in France would have liked to see more aid from the government.
And streaming services have, to some extent, benefited from us being stuck at home, with some platforms reportedly seeing a 30% increase in paying subscribers during lockdown. However, artists and songwriters are more and more voicing their discontent at the way they're paid by the likes of Spotify.
Absolutely. Now, along with depriving us from seeing our favorite artists live, this year's global pandemic also impacted how we here at France 24 interacted with our own music guests.
Oh yeah, we went from interviewing, having lovely interviews face to face, to doing everything online.
Exactly, here in the studio, but with our guests in Skype, or even sometimes from our own homes. Now, here's how some of our own guests dealt with being in lockdown.
I played my first show in March, and it was a week before strict lockdown. I was playing my first show in London at the Roundhouse, and when I came out of stage, I said, I'm ready,
We started tour in February, so we were touring in the US at the beginning of the pandemic, and so it's very frustrating.
This quarantine actually offers me more time than I ever had, actually.
I wrote loads of music, loads of tracks, so I got most of the way through my next album.
I think ultimately people see artists and think that they'll be fine, and they probably will be, but it isn't about people like me or other artists. It's about the people who really are the backbone of the live music industry. Without these people, there wouldn't be concerts, there wouldn't be tours, and I think that they have been massively overlooked.
And one last question, what's the first thing that you're going to do when all this is over?
I'm going to take my clothes off and go to the beach.
Interesting hearing how those artists have been dealing with the lockdown. What was your interview highlight of the year, Marjorie?
Oh, so many great chats. But one of my favorites was actually just before lockdown. It was with classical pianist, composer George Benjamin, who studied for many years in Paris. He was a prodigy when he was 16 and came here. And then I think his first show was at the BBC Proms when he was 20, so just, low key. But anyway, he was here for a retrospective festival at the Philharmonie, and he was performing his own stuff, but also involving other artists, and he told us about the importance of opera music.
Opera, ever since it was invented, deals with important, profound things within us. And over the centuries, as the form has mutated and changed and transformed, some of those themes seem to me permanent and as important as they were in Greek tragedy thousands of years ago. And they are probably love, sex, power, jealousy, these standard but incredibly deep things within the human being. And fortunately, my collaborator, Martin Krimp, has given me texts which are very demanding, very inspiring, and yes, rather hard to face, and not easy for me to face while I'm composing them also.
Oh, and a story I really, really liked about George Benjamin is that when he was a little boy, he asked for time to imagine music in his head instead of actually getting a bedtime story.
Well, my interview highlight of the year was actually with Phineas. 2020 was a good year for the American singer-songwriter and producer. He won 5 Grammy Awards for work on his chart-topping younger sister Billie Eilish's debut album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, which is I love that album. Now, he actually won Grammy Award for Producer of the Year, making him the youngest person ever to win that award. And what's interesting is he had some great advice for people learning how to make music in their bedrooms, just like he did.
There's just a natural period where you're really bad at it for a long time. And that's just part of the game, I guess. I wish it wasn't, but it just is. You're not going to be good at it the whole time. And
so you got to keep doing it.
Yeah, you just got to keep doing it. And I think the older you get, the more you're not used to starting a new thing that you're not good at, right? We've all been reading and writing for a long time. We've all been, you know, doing mathematics for a long time. We've known world history for a long time. The older you get, the more you're like, I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable that I'm not good at this yet. So like right now, I'm like trying to teach myself how to surf, and I'm like, I'm terrible at it. Like I'm really bad at it. And I'm just like, you know what? Like it's okay. Like someday, like you're gonna be not bad at this.
I really hope we get to chat to people face to face again in the near future. Now, despite everything, some great music was also released this year, and there's also quite a few bangers. What was your favourite, Flo?
Well, I'm a huge fan of The Strokes, so I was very excited when they released their album, The New Abnormal. This was in April. It's their 6th studio album, their first new album in 7 years. Now, over the years, they've gotten a bad rap from fans of their first album, Is This It? Some have been disappointed by the music that's come since. Well, this album, in my opinion, is near pure Strokes perfection, and it was the perfect soundtrack to get through what was a very odd spring and summer. How about you, Marjorie?
Ooh, so many. I'm currently revisiting Bob Dylan's album that came out in June that's called Rough and Rowdy Way, and I also really liked a Ghanaian US artist, Amari, who's kind of does fetish R&B, and it's very sweet. Fiona Apple, we have to mention her, but also British band Working Men's Club, who were literally releasing their debut album, and were the last band I saw before lockdown live. But I'm going to go with my favourite of the year, Kelly Lee Owens, a techno artist who released Inner Song, her second album, and it literally has climate change bangers because she was inspired by ice breaking, the glaciers breaking, and she put that in her music.
Sounds incredible. Now, of course, there are so many million other favorites we would love to talk to you about, but why don't we look at some of the greatest hits from 2020?
Who needs to go to sleep when I got you next to me?
Make that pull-out game weak. Yeah. At least I'm alone. Rain on me, rain, rain, rain on me, rain, rain. 'Cause I knew you, stepping on the last train, marked me like a bloodstain. Jolie nana, recherche jolie job. Comment on fait, je suis pas très mytho. Moi j'ai le truc, je sens les people, les people. Oh yeah.
Now, in a year where everything normal about our everyday lives has been completely turned on its head, music has really been a rescue buoy, and a lot of people connected with others through music.
That might explain the success of Jerusalema, an upbeat gospel-influenced house song by a South African DJ and record producer Master KG, which has turned into a global phenomenon.
A looping beat, lyrics in the form of a prayer, and world-famous choreography, thanks in part to a dance challenge launched by this group of friends in Angola with a bounce in their step and a plate in their hands. That challenge quickly met by monks in Italy, priests in Quebec, a dance troupe in Germany, and a tiny little girl somewhere in Africa. Jerusalema is now a worldwide sensation. South African artist Master KG can hardly believe it.
It's so nice to see, sometimes I feel like, just emotional.
As South Africa reopens to tourism, even the president is a promoter.
Jerusalem, a song that I love so much. So I urge all of you to take up this challenge.
Here in France, healthcare workers unwind to the music, while kids' dance classes do their best to keep up.
For 10-year-olds, yes, it's difficult. For adults, no. It's a bit like a Madison line dance.
It's not that hard, as long as you don't let your feet get mixed up.
The lyrics translate, Jerusalem is my home. Protect me, walk with me, don't let me go. The song has become a source of uplift and hope for populations struggling with the coronavirus pandemic.
The spiritual element of the song during this current period is giving it a greater impact, and the dance challenges have only amplified the phenomenon.
Already a summer hit, Jerusalema has now become the autumn dance craze.
And seeing as it's the end of the year, how about we take a look at 2021? Let's look towards the future. Anything you're excited about? I know there's Drake, Foo Fighters, Slow Tie, Alice Cooper, who are just some of the people who are expected to drop new albums this year.
I'm really looking forward to the debut album of a man named Aaron Fraser. Now, you might remember him. He's the drummer from Duran Jones and the Indications, a band that we have had on the show before. He's going solo with this beautiful voice that he has. It's a beautiful falsetto voice and a sound that's inspired by the Northern Soul movement from the 1960s. You can hear it on this track. It's called Bad News.
It sounds really good, up my street as well. But I'm going to go and pick a Scottish post-rock band called Mogwai, who are releasing their 11th studio album as the love continues in February. I got a sneak preview of it and it's really good. Some tracks are very 90s grunge rock, while others have their trademark bombastic build-up. Let's check out the first single.
Show is unfortunately coming to an end. We had so many other things we wanted to talk about, but how about we wrap up with some festive cheer?
Yeah, we pulled together through the Christmas songs of this year, and we decided to go with Lil Nas, who was behind one of 2019's biggest hits, the Cowboy song. Yep, he is he 2020's biggest Christmas hit? You tell us what you think on the Encore social media pages.
Now, stay safe, everyone, and have a wonderful end of the year. We'll see you next year.
Hey, it's a holiday. I got hoes on hoes and it out of control, yo. Hey, this another way. All my niggas on go and I hope that you know it. I can't even close my eyes and I don't know why. Guess I don't like surprises. I can't even stay away from the game that I play. They gon' know us today, yo.
You have enjoyed your program with Air France Protect, promising you a pleasant trip with total peace of mind.